other Turkic Muslims are detained because of their culture and religious identity and not for any specific criminal action. The evidence presented is overwhelmingly and horrific and cannot be ignored or pushed aside by the international community. After groundbreaking United Nations Uyghur report published on August 31st, 2022 says that China's government has committed abuses that may amount to crimes against humanity targeting Uyghurs and other Turkic communities in Turkestan. And after a London-based independent Uyghur tribunal has ruled that China committed genocide against Uyghurs, other ethnic groups in Turkestan, genocide still taking place. However, Muslim majority countries are not showing their solidarity with the Uyghur Muslims, not taking any actions. Besides, the Islamic Ummah is not fully and correctly informed about these matters because China's full-scale propaganda campaign toward the Islamic world is running. This report is aimed to address this very issue. In this report, as stated, the title uncovered the Islamophobia in China, its disinformation campaign around the world, and the attitude of the Muslim countries, as well as answer to the question of what prompted the lack of the urgency and the disinterested attitude in Muslim world, are all presented with facts, evidence. I believe this report will and fills an important gap in this field. However, it's challenging to combat propaganda they invested millions of dollars around the world and at the same time present a complete and accurate way to show China's war against Islam and inform the public about the Uyghur genocide. A single organization alone cannot accomplish this task. Our research and activities in this area will continue, inshallah. And the Chinese Communist government inviting many ambassadors from Muslim country and their allies. After the recent visit to Indonesia, the Chinese Communist government invited diplomats from Indonesia, Brazil, Vietnam, Turkey, and some other countries to bring to our country, is Turkestan, and ask them to report the truth about the Uyghur happy lives. So this Chinese disinformation machinery is going so massively, and as a Muslim Ummah has obligation to stand off this genocide. And with this remark, I will close my remark. Thank you, Jazakumullah khair. And I will thank everybody here to participating in discussion. And like a discussion, these help to raise awareness about the Uyghur Muslims plight, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair.
Thank you very much, Abdulhakim Idris, our Executive Director for Center for Uyghur Studies. Next, I'd like to invite our esteemed guest, Dr. Asep Setiawan, lecturer from Universitas Muhammadiyah. Dr. Asep, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahilladzi hadana lihada wa ma kunna linahtadiya laula an hadanallah. Asyhadu an la ilaha illallah wa asyhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. First of all, we would like to thank to Allah that we can gather here around the world, from Turkey, Indonesia, and also US. Secondly, I would like to thank to Brother Abdulhakim Idris and friends, our colleague in Uyghur Center. Just for the record, that our discussion is a part of MOU with Center for Uyghur Studies and with the Faculty of Political Science, Universitas of Muhammadiyah, Jakarta. So this discussion is a part of the scientific discussion, even though this is quite challenging for us, but This is very important issue to address. I just received a message from our colleague in Jakarta. This is quite very important to continue to give awareness to around the world, and particularly to Ummah, that Islamophobia is remain exists in China against Uyghur. Please, I would like to share my presentation within 10 minutes, and we will have a discussion. And I just want to say also, due to Indonesian, maybe very hard to understand in English, I would like to mix it up presentation with Indonesian language. As we know that Uyghur Center has just published the Islamophobia in China, and then we can discuss how encounter and how to address this kind of problem in Uyghur, because this is very important, not only for Uyghurs itself, but also for Ummah. This discussion may be an example of how Muslim encounter or addressing such kind Islamophobia in around the world. With the sample of Uyghur, maybe Ummah and scientific community and academic could discuss further about this presentation. Jadi yang hadir dari Indonesia masih sedikit ya. Ada Khawarinisa, mudah-mudahan nanti teman-teman dari Jakarta akan hadir juga. Di sana sudah beberapa. Jadi teman-teman semua, ini adalah bagian dari kerjasama antara Center of Uyghur Studies dengan FISIP Muhammadiyah Jakarta yang akan membahas soal Islamophobia di Cina terhadap Uyghur. The first thing to address regarding this Islamophobia in China toward Uyghur is how Ummah would promote the awareness this issue. This is has been studied by B. Wong and Zhang 2021. One of the most effective strategy for combating or for addressing Islamophobia is to educate people on the reality of Islam and Muslim communities. In this case, is Uyghur. So promoting awareness is the first step. Yeah. Because we do understand Ummah and Muslim community around the world may be almost 2 billion. So a lot of the problem, a lot of issue. But the first thing regarding research, an article by B. and Wang and Zhang 2 years ago, that promoting awareness is very important to understand this issue. Maybe sense of remote to other country like Indonesia because far away, but due to the character of Muslim as a unity, as a body, as Rasulullah said that Umat Islam is a unity. So wherever there are, the other will be feel the pain. So we should have any other Muslim community to the other region. In this regard, raising awareness of the Uyghur community and their cultural religious belief can effectively counter Islamophobia. So the first step to address this issue is to promoting awareness. Promoting awareness, how to promote? Promoting awareness as research proven and discussed with some of kind of the articles, academic, can be done in various ways, such as through the media, social media, public campaigns, and etc. And through the media channel, individual can learn about the challenge Uyghur face in China and the impact of government policy in their life. So this very important step, I think with the globalized and communication to become global, this is not very difficult doing this one, you know. So this is must be proactive for Muslim to promote awareness, yeah, through the media. Social media can be used to raise awareness about Islamophobia toward Uyghur with the hashtag, you know. Maybe some student here very familiar with the hashtag. as Stop Uyghur Genocide or Save Uyghur, trending on platform like the Global's platform based in US, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, yeah. Also campaign or rally, yeah. This is one of the way of the promoting awareness. Let me speak in Indonesia, Brother Abdulhakim, for Indonesian audience. Jadi yang pertama di dalam menangani masalah Islamophobia itu adalah bagaimana melakukan kampanye, ya, melalui media sosial, melalui media konvensional. Karena dengan adanya kesadaran ini maka umat Islam dimanapun berada akan memahami pentingnya menghadapi yang namanya kekhawatiran, ketakutan yang tidak beralasan terhadap umat Islam termasuk di Uyghur. Jadi inilah mengapa nanti kita diskusikan mengapa promoting awareness is very important step, sangat penting dalam menangani apa yang disebut dengan Islamophobia. Karena dengan adanya promosi ini maka pengetahuan kita bertambah, kemudian kita juga menunjukkan simpati dan termasuk adalah kewajiban daripada umat Islam dalam memberikan bantuan kepada saudara-saudaranya dimanapun dia berada yang mengalami kesulitan. Kesimpulannya adalah pertama adalah promoting awareness, ya, memajukan kesadaran kepada kita supaya kita bertambah ilmu pengetahuan. So the conclusion is promoting awareness is very important. The first step to combat, to encounter, to address this what kind of Islamophobia. The second is this is also is based on research and based on academic journal. I found the article to Genhart in the last presentation. I will share the source of this perspective. Yeah, this kind of international pressure may be quite difficult, but it's possible. Yeah. So it can say that another way to encounter and to address Islamophobia and against Uyghur is to apply international pressure to the actor, we call it actor in the international, who do or promote Islamophobia against Ummah, particularly against Uyghurs. The international community, including government, non-governmental organizations, and human rights group, can pressure the Chinese government to change the policy toward Uyghurs. Of course, this is the second step to interact with the actor, wherever actor, because of course also in international relation perspective, every government, every state has what so-called is sovereignty, but in international level there is also what called is ethic, what called is the norm that whoever actor doing something human rights violation, so international community should respond. So there is also what so-called is respond to intervene. So this is one of the theoretical of international. According to Genhart, international pressure can help raise awareness on the issue and bring attention. Yeah. So international pressure may be not to solve all the problem, but bring attention of policymakers around the world, bring attention of the media, bring attention general public. Whatever statement, yeah, in the next page, whatever statement from such kind international forum like UN, you know, maybe there is some kind, not resolution, maybe just statement, yeah, from some members of UN or in UN toward demanding action. This kind of pressure, maybe some say not effective, but this is awareness of the around the world, yeah, to give what so-called is a norm in international relation. Yeah, international pressure can be applied in various ways, such as through economic sanction, yeah, also through the political boycotts, diplomatic pressure, yeah. So this is maybe hard to, but it's possible to do in some kind to save the Uyghur. Jadi teman-teman semua yang di Indonesia, Langkah kedua yang dilakukan adalah dengan tekanan internasional melalui berbagai lembaga-lembaga seperti PBB, ya. Kemudian maybe from Islam is OKI, Organisasi Kerjasama Islam, or Liga Arab, ya. Saya tidak memasukkan di sini, tetapi ini adalah sebuah langkah yang sudah dilakukan penelitian bahwa norma-norma internasional itu harus diikuti, ya, oleh seluruh dunia, walaupun sebuah negara itu memiliki apa yang disebut dengan kedaulatan. The third step in regarding how to address the Islamophobia in China against Uyghur is to support Uyghur community wherever they are. This also mentioned by Chen and Jones, 2021. Supporting the Uyghur community can help alleviate the effects of government policies such as forced detention, forced labor, and cultural assimilation, as mentioned from report from Center for Uyghur Studies. Maybe Brother Abdulhakim could explain it later. But this report, this article has recognized that the world, Muslim world, should help, yeah, to reduce or to remove or to alleviate such as forced detention, as reported I think 40 years ago, still maybe today, forced labor and cultural assimilation, as mentioned in the report from Center for Uyghur Studies. Support for the Uyghur community can be provided in various ways, such as through humanitarian aid, financial assistance, and legal support. This is common in international community to support like this. Humanitarian aid can be provided to Uyghur detained or forced to flee their home. Financial assistance can be provided to Uyghur who have lost their job, business due to the government policy. Legal support can be provided to Uyghur detained or persecuted by Chinese government. So this kind of the helping community is one element to address Islamophobia, because the Islamophobia influence to the community, influence to daily life, and maybe a lost job, lost business, detained and everything, because the kind of Islamophobia in China. And combating Islamophobia against Uyghur requires a multifaceted approach. So the conclusion is promoting awareness is one element very important to do in combating and addressing Islamophobia, as reported by the Center of Uyghur Study. Applying international pressure, this is the other step, and supporting Uyghur community possible ways to address the issue. In last seminar international in Jakarta, Brother Abdulhakim invite our colleague from Malaysia, from ABIM, and Malaysia has doing a lot of to help what so-called humanitarian aid. In bahasa Indonesia, jadi teman-teman mahasiswa dan Bapak Ibu sekalian, salah satu langkah dalam menghadapi combating Islamophobia itu juga adalah efek daripada permusuhan terhadap umat Islam Uyghur, yaitu dengan membantu masyarakatnya, ya. Mereka tentu saja akan ada yang ditahan, ada yang kerja paksa, ada yang disuruh menikah, ya, dengan meninggalkan agamanya. Maka kita bisa memberikan bantuan umat Islam dengan bantuan kemanusiaan, bantuan keuangan, juga bantuan hukum. Dan ini biasa dilakukan di dalam masyarakat internasional. Jadi kesimpulannya, how to address of Islamophobia adalah dengan jalan meningkatkan kesadaran internasional umat Islam, dengan melakukan tekanan internasional, NGO melalui badan-badan PBB, OKI, dan juga membantu umat Islam Uyghur yang menghadapi kesulitan, apakah dia ditahan, dipenjara, ya, dan lain-lain. I think I want to stop to this until this. This is a very important step. But I found also, Brother Abdulhakim, a lot of ways, yeah, a lot of ways based on scientific research how to address what so-called Islamophobia against Uyghur. So this is one step discussion, I think very important, and I hopefully what so-called recording of our will be shared later due to Indonesian audience at the night now. But that is my conclusion. Thank you very much for attention. Hopefully my colleague and my student will join later next half an hour. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Dr. Asif, for your presentation. And I think it's a really good point that you put forth regarding those three objectives of raising awareness through many channels, many avenues, coalition with international support and pressure, whether it could be economic or political pressure, and also maintaining the support for Uyghur community. All those three areas, I think it's essential for this ongoing effort for the Uyghur genocide. Once again, thank you so much for your time and effort on this Uyghur cause. Next, I'm going to invite our program director for the Center for Uyghur Studies, our dear brother, Abdulmuqtedir. The floor is yours, brother.
Abdulmuqtedir, we cannot hear you. You are muted.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Assalamu alaikum. Yes, I hope everyone is doing well. My name is Abdulmuqtedir Udun. I am the program manager at the Center for Uyghur Studies. So today I'd like to share with you our recent report on Islamophobia in China and attitudes of Muslim countries. I'd like to brief you on the report, inshallah, and go through the main points. So this is a report we published recently. We've worked on for almost a year now, and we've just published last month. The reason we wanted to choose this topic is Islamophobia is something that is like being taken seriously in recent years in the West. Islamophobia, like several Western governments have taken this issue of Islamophobia seriously and have started combating Islamophobia, and have even some like school boards in Canada have even made the legislations and rules and regulations to combat Islamophobia on the institutional level. However, we don't see much attention to the Islamophobia in China, which is the most horrific form of Islamophobia that is being practiced by the state of PRC against the Uyghur Muslims, as well as other Muslims. So we wanted to highlight this topic, Islamophobia in China, to raise attention and bring the attention of Muslims to this issue. So as I've said, Islamophobia is not unique to Western countries. Actually, Islamophobia, we are seeing the worst form of Islamophobia in China, and Islamophobia in China has its historical, cultural, and political roots, because the Chinese Communist Party claims that Islam is foreign to China and East Turkestan, and because the communist ideology is based on atheism, it's opposed to all religion, including Christianity and all other religions. That's why it plays an important role in the increased practice of Islamophobia by the Chinese authorities. That's why the Chinese authorities have been repressing the religious freedom of the Uyghurs and other Muslims in East Turkestan and other provinces in China. However, the China's Islamophobic acts and policies have increased dramatically after 9/11 because the CCP has used the global war on terror an opportunity to wage a war on Islam. The Islamophobic policies in China is, of course, state-sanctioned, promoted, legitimized, and widely accepted in the society because of the global war on terror. Islamophobic and hateful content against Muslims are freely spread on the internet. For instance, the Chinese authorities and official Chinese government has even gone to call Islam a mental disease that has to be cured, and that's why the Chinese regime has interned more millions of Uyghur Muslims in concentration camps since 2017, because they claimed that Islam, because the Uyghurs adhere to Islam, and they thought that, of course, because Islam is a mental illness and they have to be cured in concentration camps through so-called re-education schemes. Last year, the leader of the Chinese Communist Party, Xi Jinping, visited Urumqi, and he particularly pointed out that Islam must be Chinese orientation and adhere to socialism. This is called Sinicization of Islam. The CCP Sinicization of Islam means that all Islamic values and practices must be compliant with the Communist Party's ideology and agenda, and the religion of Islam should only exist to serve the interests of the Chinese Communist Party. So basically, it means that the cleansing Islam of all the Arab and Turkic elements, all the so-called Arab and Turkic elements. That's why we see the Chinese authorities removing the minarets of mosques and even other buildings to sinicize Islam, basically. So in the report, in the first chapter, we have introduced the Islamophobia in China, China's historic, the elements of Islamophobia in China, and what the Sinicization of Islam means. And in the second chapter, we have dedicated the second chapter to China's war on Islam, because Islamophobic policies of the Chinese regime, we can find ample examples for that in the current war, as well as current war on Islam, as well as the historic repression of Islam, especially during Cultural Revolution. So in the second chapter, you can see the ample evidence of China's Islamophobic policies in East Turkestan. For example, China's prohibition of Islamic education, so basically depriving the Uyghur Muslims of learning their religion, and repression of Muslim religious scholars, detaining them and harassing them constantly, as well as burning the Quran. As you can see in this slide, the Chinese authorities have collected Quran and other religious textbooks from Uyghur homes and burned them to take away the opportunity of learning Islam from the Uyghurs. Also, the Chinese authorities have used Islamic practices such as having beard or wearing hijab, refraining from smoking and drinking, wearing a shirt with Arabic letters, and even traveling to Muslim majority countries as pretext to sending the Uyghur Muslims to concentration camps, so that when if any Uyghur Muslim wants to practice Islam, or they would feel like they are being extremists. That's the aim of the Chinese regime, because they want Uyghur Muslims to feel that practicing Islam, adhering to the religious values, are forms of extremism. That's the worst. I believe that's the worst part of the Chinese war on Islam. And in the third chapter, we examine China's disinformation campaign in the Islamic world. We've introduced the various forms of China's disinformation campaign in the Islamic world, including sending delegations to Muslim majority countries on state propaganda visits, as well as inviting Muslim diplomats, journalists, and other government officials to staged visits in East Turkestan and trying to deceive them that nothing is wrong in East Turkestan. We've seen last year, the Chinese authorities have invited diplomats from 30 Muslim majority countries last August, I believe, in a state propaganda visit. And we've seen some Muslim diplomats coming out and saying that China is protecting the religious freedom of Uyghurs and denying all the facts and realities of Uyghur genocide and China's war on Islam. We have also examined China's influence on the media in Islam, in the Islamic world. We've also examined how China uses social media influencers and social media to basically whitewash the Uyghur genocide and China's Islamophobic policy in East Turkestan. So as you can see in this chart, China has increasingly started inviting Muslim government officials, journalists, academics, and scholars to East Turkestan to basically deceive them and whitewash the Uyghur genocide so that they will go on to deny and do China's bid in their countries. That's a very big setback for the Uyghur human rights advocacy. And then in the last chapter, we examined the attitudes of Muslim countries and the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. So far, the Organization of Islamic Cooperation has not condemned China's religious persecution of the Uyghurs. Instead, the OIC has been strengthening its relations with the Chinese regime. Even as far as like in March 2022, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi was invited to speak at the OIC summit in Islamabad, Pakistan. And the Muslim majority countries, unfortunately, have so far not condemned the Uyghur genocide. In fact, instead, many of them have sided with the Chinese regime in the international community. Many Muslim countries have issued a counter letter to at the UN, praising China's Islamophobic policies and denying the Uyghur genocide at the UN back in 2019. Recently, last October, the Uyghur human rights motion at the UN Human Rights Council was defeated because all the Muslim majority countries who are the members at the UN Human Rights Council either voted against or abstained from the vote. So we examined in the last chapter the attitudes of Muslim countries. We examined their various China's various tactics to influence major Islamic NGOs in Muslim countries, including Indonesia, Malaysia, several Gulf countries, Turkey, and Azerbaijan. With this, we want to shed light on China's tactics and various methods of disinformation so that Muslims will be aware of them and challenge them so that China's disinformation campaign in the Islamic world will not be successful. And then the Muslim majority countries will finally start standing up against China's religious persecution and Islamophobic policies against Uyghur Muslims. So you'll be able to download and read the report at our website, uygurstudy.org. You will also be able to see many other articles and resources at our website. Please feel free to always reach out to us to learn more about Uyghur genocide and China's Islamophobia. Thank you very much. I would be happy to take your questions later on.
Thank you so much, Brother Abdulmuqtedir, our program director for the Center for Uyghur Studies. As Abdulmuqtedir, elegantly put it, the Uyghurs that are living right now under the Chinese communist regime are living the reality of the 1984 by George Orwell. this book is supposed to be a dystopia, a distant dystopia. It was written, by an author, kind of describes the state, in this case, CCP, scrutinize the human actions with ever watchful of a surveillance of the entire population, where everybody is subjugated to forceful surveillance. There are people being subjugated to discrimination, open discrimination, and the religion of Islam is being targeted as a mental disease or illness. And again, so this is the report. It highlights a lot of the details of some of the lack of the Muslim majorities countries, and obviously there's some obvious reasons as to why those countries are lacking the support for their Uyghur brethren in East Turkestan. And we are living in a very complicated times as we speak right now, where the Chinese government has the economic and the political leverage around those Muslim countries, and therefore they have the leverage and the pull to essentially silence those countries on the Uyghur genocide matters. And again, so this is a good discussion. I think as with the University of Muhammadiyah, as to where we can take this. And again, Dr. Asep highlighted the raising awareness, through education, and pulling in international support. How can we build a coalition with other NGOs, other organizations to bring this very issue to the next level, bring up to the attention to the international community. And also, how can we engage the Uyghur community as well to keep this issue moving forward? And again, so it has a lot of moving parts, and it does take a lot of efforts from all angles. And I think we need, as Uyghurs, as a Center for Uyghur Studies here, our aim is to research, educate, and empower. So again, part of that report was to expose some of the shortcomings of our Muslim majority countries. It's a responsibility as a Muslims, we have a responsibility towards the other Muslims, and that what makes a differentiate between us from others. And again, so we have a responsibility at the same time, our Muslim brothers have a responsibility, and it's our job to remind to them that hey, this is happening in the Chinese backyard, and we need to stand up and at least say the Chinese government, it's called what they're doing is wrong. And obviously, again, there's a lot of implications as put up by Dr. Asep. So it's not an easy task for any country right now. Like I said, it's just because of the sheer economics and sheer political leverage that the Chinese government has on those countries. So I think with that, I'm going to open up the floor for some questions. If anybody else have any questions to raise on this very issue. And I think I may just kind of start maybe on my question to Dr. Asep. Dr. Asep, you mentioned, pulling in international support. And what views, in your opinion, that, we can engage the international community to build better and maybe a stronger coalition to maybe a bit more pressure on the Chinese government on the Uyghur genocide?
Thank you very much, Brother Wushur. But I just want to mention here, as Brother Abdulmuqtedir, that China now has more power in economic term and political leverage. So as I mentioned, building coalition is not easy task, but it is believed. If you see one of step in international relation theoretical construction is what so-called public diplomacy. So international coalition is not merely a state coalition or government coalition, but people coalition much more stronger, I believe. So as mentioned, rising awareness among Muslim population is a good step to build the what's so-called government coalition. Because if we can see the changing geopolitical in Middle East, as we mentioned before, and in any discussion, but I believe the good step is building coalition among the peoples. I think among ulama, among the community. As you mentioned, Indonesia has 200 million more peoples. You know, I think coalition with dua maybe one of the steps. You know, with dua for Uyghur, I think the most powerful coalition. So this is the kind of my perspective to see, because in reality, as mentioned, the China quite powerful now, and but we believe that the people power is much powerful with Allah, with us, and the other side. So building coalition with the people with so-called public diplomacy will influence the policymaker in any government in the world. So I just mentioned how the South Korea to influence the policymaker around the world through the K-pop. You know, K-pop is one of the instrument of cultural diplomacy. So the cultural diplomacy must continue embed with the what so-called is the public awareness. So this is my perspective. Maybe there is a lot of weakness on it, but I believe with my experience as international relation specialization, that public diplomacy, what so-called now in Joseph Nye is the soft power. Soft power is more powerful to some extent rather than military power or rather than the hard power. So soft power should be very powerful to change the situation around the world, even though maybe the other factor under the government is very strong in politics, in economic and military. But now there is a term soft power, as Joseph Nye, American scientist, mentioned that much powerful in the long term to change the world. This is my perspective. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Asep, for your response there. It's very comprehensive. And I think it's good to recognize that we do state that, you know, we're saying that the China is very powerful in this, but, you know, but at the same time, yeah, we need to remind ourselves, and I think that, you know, we have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on our side, but we need to do our part as per required as Muslims to, you know, give the effort and then expect the results from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And thank you so much again for your response. And if I have any other panels want to chip in on that question, be more than welcome to speak up.
I want to add to for Indonesian audience here, teman-teman, ada mahasiswa saya juga di sini. Jadi tadi ada pertanyaan bagaimana koalisi atau melakukan dukungan internasional kalau pada saat ini faktanya China memiliki kekuatan yang sangat luar biasa di seluruh dunia. Saya cuma menjawab begini, bahwa koalisi pemerintah itu salah satu aspek yang memiliki kekuatan. Ada lagi koalisi masyarakat, ya. Koalisi umat Islam, kalau kita tahu di Indonesia ada ratusan juta, 250 juta umat Islam, di negara-negara lain, maka untuk meningkatkan koalisi itu, maka koalisi umat Islam is much powerful than koalisi state. Apalagi kalau koalisi umat Islam didukung oleh doa, ya, didukung oleh kekuatan oleh Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, ya, maka itu akan menjadi lebih powerful. Jadi kita berpikir di dalam koalisi itu is not rasional, tapi juga sesuatu yang merupakan bagian dari umat Islam. Dan yang kemudian saya katakan juga bahwa koalisi itu juga menyangkut apa yang disebutkan soft power. Soft power is very important, ya. Soft power itu bukan military power, political power, tapi adalah kekuatan kemanusiaan yang sifatnya budaya dan lain-lain. Itulah kira-kira jawaban saya tadi pertanyaan ini. Silakan kalau ada dari teman-teman bisa menulis dalam bahasa Indonesia pertanyaan kepada pembicara atau kepada yang lainnya. Silakan.
All right, thank you, Dr. Asep. Maybe as a follow-up question, you talk about soft power. As you mentioned, Indonesia has the largest Muslim population around the globe. what ways and what avenues can we explore to better engage to improve that soft power in Indonesia and a country like Malaysia, to raise that the Islamophobia awareness that the Chinese government imposing on Uyghurs?
The first thing what I to respond brother's question is first we should have a promoting awareness among the high level society with education. So through university, through the think tank, so we a lot of exchange idea, discussion that will be open mind of Indonesian around the world. Around Indonesia, because Indonesia is set as a community is still in developing. We call Indonesia as middle power now, but you know that level of education is now similar, equal at the moment. But if we touch the level, high level education community should be quicker to spread out of what so-called is a sense of belonging of Islamophobia to address. The second level is very famous in our international relation theory is the cultural approach. So as brother Abdulhakim give me, you know, what so-called is a cup
Tufa.
of tufa and the cloth. Right. So with the traditional cultural, it could be touch heart of many Indonesian Muslims. Because in general Indonesian Muslim is heartwarming, and then they are open mind to the other cultural, to the other Islamic cultural, other ethnic and other because ulama in Indonesia is have a statement that in Islam basically one ummah. So wherever painful in the other ummah that the Indonesian have to support, have to lend it out, at least with dua, as I said. The third level, a part of cultural approach is approach to religious leaders, you know, to have construction discussion, maybe exchange imam, you know, exchange discussion in the mosque with, of course, discussion not political issue, but religious. Such as investigating of discussion of tafsir Al-Quran, hadith. That is quite powerful, I think, in the long term. Yeah, in the long term, because this is very important. Jadi teman-teman semua tadi ada pertanyaan bagaimana caranya ke Indonesia. Saya mengatakan melalui lembaga pendidikan tinggi, universitas. Muhammadiyah itself has 170 higher education and university. So this is potential for our brother to have a link to them. Kemudian yang kedua adalah melalui kebudayaan, makanan, budaya, itu juga sangat akan mendekatkan. With the close of cultural, so we are being one, yeah, being one, diversity in unity. Diversity cultural, but unity in Islamic values, Islamic belief, Islamic teachings. That is a good approach. The third is, saya bilang, ya pertukaran imam-imam masjid lah memimpin dan diskusi tentang masalah keagamaan, not politik, ya. So discussion with imam regarding the Islamic teaching, you know, scientifically will be expand and understanding. But not in the mosque, hopefully not discussion political issue, but is outside. That is the good approach, brother, for building what so-called is a coalition of Ummah Islam around the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Asep. Do we have anybody else want to chip in on that question?
Dari teman-teman Indonesia yang hadir, mahasiswa, ada yang pertanyaan? Silakan. Apa saja? Maybe nah ini dia.
There is a question in the chat room. Maybe you could address this one. Abdulmuqtedir, maybe you can just step in.
Yeah, brother Abdulmuqtedir, please.
So I think this question is directed to Dr. Asep. Our sister Khaira Anisa is asking that on the slide about international pressure, what is your opinion, sir, Is it the UN's failure to stop Islamophobic oppression in China?
My answer is indeed that UN has a limitation because this is a world organization, and based on theoretical of international law, every country has sovereignty. As we mentioned, Brother Abdulmuqtedir, China has always stated this is a domestic issue. And this is belong to China because Uyghur now is under China, so they said that. But there is the other norm in international, norm of peace, norm of humanitarian, norm of protecting human rights. So maybe to some extent UN failed to address this issue, but efforts should be continued to persuade United Nations and other countries to have what sort kind international pressure or international diplomacy to China. But I just mentioned, Khaira Anissa, that we should not depend on state or not international organization to have a pressure. We have to gather support from the community, from the peoples, from the Muslim, because based on theoretical approach international relation, that what so-called soft diplomacy, what so-called soft power, what so-called public diplomacy, to some extent could have a way to give a policymaker to change their mind. So this is look like building people's support, and then change respective government, and then respective regional organization, and then UN. So this is kind of a theoretical construction, maybe a theoretical approach, but it's believed based on my experience looking at the historical of international is possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Maybe a next question for our program director, Abdulmuqtedir. Could you talk a little about the Center for Uyghur Studies? What Center for Uyghur Studies doing, in this Uyghur genocide? Some of the avenues that the Center for Uyghurs are exploring, as far as what it could be done to combat this Islamophobia.
Thank you, Hazaretali, for your question. The Center for Uyghur Studies was founded in Washington, D.C. We have been focusing on raising the Uyghur human rights issue through human rights advocacy as well as research. We particularly focus on educating the Muslim mass about the Uyghur genocide and China's war on Islam. We do that through research, publishing educational materials that highlight China's religious persecution and Islamophobic policies in East Turkestan. We focus on the Muslim communities because unfortunately the Islamic world has been silent while many Western countries have spoken up. That's not right. That's totally that doesn't make any sense, because that's why the Chinese regime is able to claim that the Uyghur genocide is a Western propaganda, because no Muslim country has spoken out against that. We share, of course, the Uyghur Muslims are part of the Ummah. The Muslims have an obligation to speak out against such heinous crimes against their fellow Muslim brothers and sisters. So we believe that there's a lack of information. Also, there is we have to counter China's disinformation campaign in the Islamic world. That's why we are trying to bring facts, speak to the conscience of our Muslim brothers and sisters. That's what we are focusing right now at our center. We produce materials in multiple languages, including English, Arabic, Turkish, Russian, and Uyghur. We're going to launch, inshallah, our website in Malay language, hopefully soon. So we've published our brochure, East Turkestan and the Uyghurs, on multiple languages. We've just published it in Malay. We've published it in the Indonesian language last month during Ramadan, during the field trip to Indonesia. So you will be able to go through and read and understand this issue from historic perspective and what's happening right now, and China's various forms of war on Islam. So that's what we are trying to do. We look forward to have more Muslims speak out about this issue, so that China can no longer claim that it's a Western propaganda and it's the reality. And we all have an obligation to speak out against that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Abdulmuqtedir, for that overview of the Center for Uyghur Studies mission. And again, our mission again is to research, educate, and empower people, and that's the core of those three the bullet points. And I think we are at our time. I don't know if there are any other questions from the audience. And I think if there are no questions, we're going to go ahead and conclude today's roundtable discussion. And I thank the speakers, particularly Dr. Asep Setiawan, our director, Abdulhakim Idris, and our brother program manager, Abdulmuqtedir. And thank you all so much for your time, for taking the time to participate in this roundtable discussion.
Shall we have a picture together? Can you, Pak Ali, Mr. Lali Sofyan, open the camera for documentation? I forgot to take the picture. Okay, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, thank you very much, because I have to make report. So this is the end of recording.